So I'm here at the Pole House London with Tara Meyer and Melanie Irene. Melanie here just had a private lesson with Tara, and so I'm going to interview mostly Melanie about you. Not at all awkward. So Melanie, how did you first happen upon Tara however many years ago?
The very first year that I went to the CPFA competition, Tara came in second, I think, and did this like glorious ballerina dance, and I fell in love with her. And I've been in love with her ever since.
So, how many times have you been able to either take her workshops or private lessons with her since?
This is my second private lesson with her, and I think I've done one other workshop with her.
Yeah, pretty much every time I come into Toronto, she's there.
Right. So obviously, not just coming from someone like you, but I'm assuming that there's a lot of repeat customers for your workshops and your privates.
Yeah, which is really nice because it's kind of like I know then that you guys actually like my workshops.
Several of my students in Detroit are like, you're their first impression of a pole celebrity, and several of them have ballet backgrounds, so it's just sort of a natural gravitation towards you.
Yeah.
You're about to meet one tomorrow.
Okay.
Do you have ballet background?
Yes.
Was that your natural gravitation towards her, or was it just a coincidence?
It might have been a natural gravitation, but also just like, not to make you awkward or anything, but like she's just so glorious on stage, right? It's that whole perfect.
We're still setting up here, so there's going to be noises. Yeah. I personally, the first time that I saw Tara perform was at PCS at the Arnold, and I knew of her from YouTube and the internet, and live obviously was a little bit more, not necessarily interactive, but like real, and so I was already blown away from what I'd seen on the competitions on YouTube, but in person, it was that much more magnificent to experience that. Do you feel the same? Yeah? Now, Tara, do you ever watch your own videos?
It might take me 2 months or 3 months to actually watch videos from my like competition. So say if I finish a competition, I cannot watch myself. I don't know, there's just something where I get nervous watching myself, and I feel I'll always pick out something that wasn't right.
So you'll be your harshest critic?
Yeah.
One of the things that is sort of a curse for that exact thing is that we know what we meant to do.
Yeah.
And so you'll be able to critique yourself in a way that the audience wouldn't, because you did something cool. And even though it may not be what you meant to do,
Yes.
the audience is like, wow, great, she totally did that on purpose. And in your head, you're like, damn it, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
Right?
And then that's why it's like I can't even watch my video. Like for some examples like that. But then now I can go back to like, I don't know, for example, like 2014 when I was at the Worlds in London, England, I'll go back and be like, oh, like it's a memory that you're like, oh, that was me, but it doesn't seem like me. So I can more appreciate it than when it's a fresh competition and being like, oh, that move or something like that.
Which brings me to my next question. Have either of you noticed a progression in her style throughout the years? And then also, Melanie, have you noticed one on your own throughout the years by watching videos from the past? We'll start with Tara.
Oh, like for myself?
Mm-hmm.
I always try to make my performances different. So, for example, like when I first started, it was, yes, I had the more dance background, but then the 1 year that I won Canadians, I came out being like totally kind of different, more edgy and sharper and faster, which was kind of a challenge for me to like really get and pick up and stuff, because I do have longer limbs, so for me to go fast is a little bit of a challenge, but I wanted to do something different that people hadn't seen me do before, and just try to grow. I always want to try to grow. I'm always trying to even take as many workshops if I have the opportunity to do, even though people are like, why are you taking workshops? It's because I feel like you can never stop learning. Like you can just always learn more and more and more, and I just want to learn more and more and more.
And we'll come back to that exact topic in a second. But one quick follow-up for this one. Even though you've tried different styles and some performances, have you seen your, shall we say, natural style progress? And it's not just its advancement, but it's, you know.
I have. Lately this year especially, a lot of people have been approaching me to do projects with more of my ballet style and like the point and all of this stuff. So even though sometimes I felt in the past that I was like, oh, I need to do something different so that people don't get bored of me and always trying to reach for different things, I still am doing that, but at the same time now I'm more comfortable with myself and being like, you know what, yeah, people notice me for my ballet and dance. Why am I trying to do something like completely different if that's what I'm like known for and people appreciate, and I still love doing that. So I'm getting more comfortable with kind of being like, okay, this is actually what my style is, instead of being like, I have to do something different because this is what I've done. So yeah, I'm trying to grow even more and more in that sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Melanie, for you, if you look back on videos from your past performances, and if you were to look at them chronologically in order, would you notice an evolution in your style?
Yes. So I started out similarly because I have the ballet background, so I very heavily relied on the ballet stuff. And I still kind of do for certain competitions just because it's my strength. It'll make me more comfortable on stage. And if I'm trying out new tricks or stuff like that, then it's nice to have something that I can work with. But definitely I've been working on adding in more accents, more strength to my actual dancing, not necessarily strength moves and stuff like that. And then away from competitions, I've kind of moved towards the exotic stuff. So like the higher heels, the better, smaller outfit, the better. It turns out it's a lot of fun, and it's a whole different way of moving, different way of flowing. And since I don't have necessarily, or until the last year, I didn't have a studio to train at, it was something that I could do nicely at home, where I can be high ceilings, and I could just, again, keep growing, keep progressing in something with what I had.
Pause for just a moment. So we magically rotated. So Melanie just mentioned that up until about a year ago, she didn't really have a studio to practice at least not with the high ceilings that she would crave and need. And yet here, we're at the Pole House, about to get ready for a performance. And here's how high these ceilings are. Hell yes. Okay, so now back to Melanie pertaining to Tara. Watching her videos throughout the years, not just since you were a fan, but even if like one came up from 2 years ago and you watch it again, do you feel that you noticed a progression in her style? And follow up, did you take inspiration from that progression specifically, or was it just entertainment that you would consider to merge with your own style?
Excellent question. I think definitely. So my probably first two performances that I saw of Tara were the 2013-2014 Canadians. So yeah, I did notice that big change, and yeah, it was definitely inspiring to me. It's like kind of similar to my style, and then sort of nice to see where you can grow within a year. Yeah. So yeah, I think so.
When Tara here mentioned a second ago about not necessarily progressing her style, but trying something different, it is noticeable to those of us who are fans of specific pole celebrities or just, pole friends who we watch their performances whenever they share on Facebook. It's sometimes obvious that they tried something different or that they did something different, and sometimes they nail it, sometimes they don't. Obviously, we love them regardless, but I've been seeing a lot more of that recently. Even a month ago at this other event, Vertical Love, David C. Owen, for the first time ever, I've known him for years, he did Sexy, and I think he nailed it. Yeah. But you could tell that it was out of his normal style. But, yeah, he definitely nailed it. And for your performances, the one that always sticks with me, and I think it's the outfit because of the colors you chose, it was sort of like not cobalt, opal, I think, at PCS in 2015.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's my go-to whenever I mention your name and somebody looks at me blankly because they're, a pole virgin, and I'm like, oh, honey, no, here's a YouTube link.
Yeah.
And I blame YouTube for me being able to share with people their future influences. Right. such as my student that's going to take your workshop tomorrow. And the way that she found you, she saw you in person, but I'm sure that YouTube has allowed her to study your movement and find a familiarity with it, and probably a mentor. What is your favorite part about traveling to teach workshops in privates?
I would say, well, meeting all of these wonderful people, and when they do come back, like, it's kind of, I can see how they progressed too, and it's really exciting for me just to see like how from a year that they've grown. But I just love seeing people, like, even if I give them a move and they don't get it right away, how like they keep like practicing and practicing, because I'm not one to be like, you better get this move today. Like, it's kind of like, I love throwing things and making, like, for today I gave you different combos, and then it was like, let's do it all together, and then you have like half a routine. But yeah, I just love like seeing how they pick up, or even I like seeing their own styles too with the movements that I give them, like how they can make it their own, which is kind of neat.
I have to relate to that. Recently, I was at a studio that wasn't my own, and I was just trying something, and somebody picked my brain, and then they tried it, and in my opinion, their first try was better than mine, and they even made it more efficient. They skipped the most painful part of the move, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to try that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and you don't have to be specific, but I'm assuming you've learned from some of your students throughout the workshops.
Yeah, where it'd be like, oh, that actually looks cool, like your legs that way. And yeah, it's kind of neat just seeing the different like variations too that they kind of do.
Which brings me back to Melanie, of all the workshops and privates you've taken. Typically, I would assume that you have more control over what you're learning in the privates, but in the workshops, if they say, oh, hey, we're going to do chair spin today, and you're just like, I totally have chair spin, but then they show you something, you're like, oh my God, let me try that. Not exactly happen often, or are you, I don't know.
I love taking as many classes and workshops as I can as well, partly because I teach, so even hearing the way somebody teaches, I can pick up a ton from that I can pass on to my students. And also just most people have some unique way of getting into or getting out of something or comboing something, so really it doesn't matter what level it's at. Some of my favorite workshops were actually Tara's. We did a dance one, it was just a transition, so I think the hardest move we did was probably like a climb, but there were just all these really fun transitions, so you get to learn different movement styles and just different ways of doing things that you might already know. So that's one of the things I really love about workshops.
And personally, I have to appreciate that exact example because some students might be stuck in that beginner level for the longest time, but if you can just add a new spice to it to reinvigorate their, shall we say, motivation or their passion while they're building up the strength or the skin grip and stuff like that before they get to the harder stuff. For me, that's the hardest part, is reinvigorating them before they're ready for the next step. But yeah, I have noticed that in a lot of workshops and private lessons that I've witnessed and taken myself. How many times have you been to Pole House London before? Is this your first?
This is my first time.
Did you see pictures of it before or videos?
I have, yeah. I saw like the photos of it, and then even like the stage that she has set up here at the studio is like amazing. Yeah, it's pretty exciting to be here. Yeah.
Your performance tonight, are you at all nervous?
A little.
You can say no.
I'm kind of bringing it again, like from what I was saying, like changing it up. I'm going almost like back to basics with this performance. Not basics, but like back to kind of where it's more a slower performance, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of excited for it.
Well, I'm sure everybody's going to love it, not just because most of us are probably already fans of yours, but you've got a universally lovable performance style. Aww. Even when you do change it up, it might be the ponytail.
Yeah, I'll have a big ponytail.
Right, yeah. Again, referring back to the PCS, it's like that's how I picture you whenever.
Yeah.
And Melanie, you're bringing it tonight just before me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get to follow you on stage, no big deal.
I'm your opener.
Yeah. No, comedy is my opener. Yeah, but I will not refer to you that way this time. You are your own person. I'm not even going to bring up Ona. Yeah. Well, anything else you'd like to add about the experiences teaching workshops privates, taking workshops privates, performing at showcases? Wait, actually, there's a question right there.
Yes.
Performing at showcases, obviously less stressful than performing in competitions?
I don't know, because you have actually in showcases, I find you have whole people watching you. So at some competitions, obviously there's you know, other people, mom and dad, family watching you. But for showcases, a lot of the people that are performing are going to be watching as well. So that's a little bit nerve-wracking because you're like, okay, they actually know what I'm doing. So yeah, I don't know. I think the same, obviously competitions, there's that, for me anyways, that wanting to win. Like that's always not necessarily like I need to win, but I want to win. That's one of my goals. I've always thought like when I'm training, if you want to win, you got to think that you're going to win. So that was always when I'm going into competitions. It's like, okay, let's do this. And I still get really excited when I'm competing, but there's also that like little bit of fire where this one I'm excited, but I know that I don't have to like do it kind of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward. It's more nice and relaxed, but still I know once everybody starts performing, then I'll be like, okay, it's time to stretch and like get that little bit of nervous, which is good because I feel like if you're not nervous, then sometimes you don't perform your best on stage.
Like you're not pushing yourself.
Yeah, yeah. There's not that like adrenaline that's like keeping you going. Yeah.
Melanie, anything?
I think I would agree pretty much the same in that in competition there's like maybe a bit more nerves but it's that excited nerves.
Yeah.
But I think too, when I come to do a showcase, I don't really think of it, especially like I drove all the way here. I have a freestyle to do, to be honest, but it's still that idea that you came here, you don't want to disappoint people,
yes.
You don't want to fall, so I think I'm still just as nervous for either one.
Yeah.
May I recommend trying comedy in the future? What I've found is that not only could you freestyle the whole thing, and if you do mess up, you could play it off like it's part of your comedy, not necessarily saying I do that on purpose, but for me, I've noticed that even though I do feel a little bit of nerves, like they might have expectations, either because of the theme, and if I underrepresent the theme, whatever it may be, I don't know. I just have fun with it. I'm like, as long as I entertain them, even if it's because I hurt myself falling in a funny way, you can't do that outside of comedy because people are taking you seriously, especially in a competition.
Yes.
Like I would be mortified to try to judge a competition that has a comedy category, and some do.
Yeah.
And that would be the only way that I would ever compete. Not that I ever plan on competing. But for me, I had theorized that showcases were less stressful simply because you weren't being judged numerically, like quite literally, and that you were allowed to do pretty much anything you wanted to.
Yes.
In that same caveat, being allowed to do whatever you wanted to and not being limited by certain things or having so much floor work, maybe there are higher expectations from the fellow polars of, oh no, I've seen her do Bird of Paradise and Eagle and she only did one of them in this one.
Yeah.
Right? No pressure. You don't have to do both of them tonight, but
I'm not actually doing any Bird of Paradise tonight or Eagle.
Okay.
Or Spashcock.
Okay, yeah, no. Yeah.
No signature moves.
No signature.
And if I can, I kind of wanted to get Emily's opinion on this. Emily, come on over for a second. So for you, what do you find to be more nerve-wracking or nervous? We're going to go with competitions, performing, showcase performing, or event organizing and executing.
Okay, I'm not nervous about event organizing, but it's definitely stressful. So much behind the scenes stuff that you don't know about. Like up until Tuesday night, I was up until 7:30 in the morning, which is when I put my son on the bus, putting together programs and everything else.
I remember this.
Messaging performers and sponsors and everything, making sure that everyone is good to go. It's a lot of work. So in the future, I would probably do it with a team of people so we can spread the tasks around. So it's not just me, but it's a lot of work. So much work that I didn't have time to put anything together. But I'm not going to be nervous about it. I'm just going to go out there and freestyle, dance.
Thank you.
Do something awesome.
All three of you are going to be amazing tonight, regardless of what you do. And remember, we have no idea what you meant to do, right? And if for some reason you mess up, adopt comedy immediately. Just be like, oh, you fools were taking me seriously, but check out these duck feet. Yeah. Well, thank you all for your time.